Hey, welcome back, folks. I've got some thoughts to share with you today, and this goes back to a message I delivered about a year ago at a Jumpstart event. And I came out on stage and I put up a big slide that says rental is dead. And then I talked about that. And for a room full of people who are from the industry, I'm from the rental industry. We've been doing rental business for years and years and years, decades and decades, to finally come to the realization, which I've had for years, but to be able to say, now's the time we need to separate ourselves from the concept of rental because it's hurting us. Okay. It was a big moment, and it was difficult for me to go out there and say, hey, the industry that I love no longer makes sense. And here's the industry that we're in now, and here are the type of companies that industry needs. And yeah, is there space for rental companies? Sure, there is. Is what most of you do rental? No, not at all. Let's talk more about that.
Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now on to the show.
So there's a lot of words that we have used traditionally in our industry, in our segment, that I want to talk about today, about maybe stopping. And you may have heard me say some of this before, but I'm going to say it again because we're still doing it. There's a lot of companies out there who are still devaluing the services that you're providing for your customers by using words that are out of date, inappropriate, and extremely transactional. They're not service oriented at all. And there's no other industry that I see that self-destructs the way that we do when it comes to language and process. But in our defense, it comes from our rental history. Going back in time, getting into the Wayback Machine and understanding that the world that we know of gathering a bunch of equipment and putting it onto events has been a rental business for a long time. Before the 1970s, most corporate type events that you saw, or even association events, weren't the type of transactions that we deal with today at all. Matter of fact, they were really entertainment events, and they were put on by entertainment people. Theatrical and musical producers put on these events. Otherwise, it was just a microphone plugged into some speakers, maybe there might have been a screen to show a film or some sort of transparency to help the audience understand it. Nothing like what we've seen today. If there was any production value at all, it was done by entertainment people, and it was a show. It's basically a show. If you have the time, get on Netflix. It's probably still there, or you probably find it on YouTube. Is Bathtubs Over Broadway. If you want to know the history of the live events that we do today for corporate meetings, industrial shows, conferences, conventions, go watch Bathtubs Over Broadway. Find out where we come from. There's even a few shows in there that I know people who worked on those events, some of the big Ford shows in the 80s, which is about as far as that documentary goes. Bathtubs Over Broadway, great documentary. Go check it out. Now, today, that rental industry that came from renting film projectors to schools and film strips and overheads and things, providing them for military training classes. A lot of our industry was built out of helping the military train in the 30s to get people ready to take on roles in the military. And certainly during World War II, it was very, very important to train a lot of people quickly, show films in the field, entertainment, things to to occupy people's time. Um, so that's kind of where we come from. And if you went back into an old AV company, 20 years ago, you could still find film vaults of the films that were rental films. You could rent a film, a bunch of cartoons and stuff to show at an event or a party, and the projector to show it on, and the speakers to play the sound. That's kind of where we came from. Our audio visual industry came from that world. And as we became more sophisticated with technology, we were asked to do more sophisticated things. It wasn't just a column speaker on the edge of the stage and a microphone on a stand. Eventually, it became multiple microphones. It became wireless microphones. It became larger venues. We needed monitors so the people on stage could hear themselves. Sometimes we were combined with entertainment. Then visuals. It went from slides. I'm an old slide guy. Went from slide projection. Then it went to video projection. LED displays, plasma displays, all these things that developed over the years as jobs became more and more sophisticated. We still kept the rental lexicon, and we sold like a rental transaction, but the equipment was no longer the highlight of the event. It soon became the people. It became the personnel it took to put the job on. And that's what became important. And as we've evolved through the 4 decades I've been at this, when we've gone from doing shows for our clients to helping our clients get their shows done, which are two different things. When we've gone from we were all of the production for our client to we were helping the client get their production presented. As we've moved through that, we kept a lot of the rental language. And I'll give you some examples here, and it'll start to become self-evident just as we talk about this. I'll start with I'll actually start with the word rental, right? Rental is a contractual relationship between a vendor and a user. Somebody rents something to use. You rent a backhoe because you want to till up your garden. You rent a rototiller. You rent wet vacs and tools and all sorts of things. You can rent a concrete mixer. Rental is a very valuable way of a B2B transaction and a business to consumer transaction that has really nothing to do with helping somebody get their show done, which is extremely complex. So the concept of rental, you can rent a car. And if that's how we thought about getting shows done, is you could rent a show from me, that would be different, but we don't do that. We rent a show to our customers in a way that makes no sense in a car rental world, because in car rental world, do you want bumpers on that? Oh, would you like tires on your car? Do you plan on using the tires every day of the week? How many miles do you want to put on those tires? If we rented cars the way that we rent shows, okay, you would have this itemized transaction list of all the things you can and can't do with the equipment. Oh, did you want to listen to the radio? Did you want the radio to work? Right? Oh, a roof on your car. You want the headlights? All of these things that in a car rental don't matter because we are renting a working car, but our clients aren't renting a working show. Okay, they are engaging you to provide the tools and resources and the people to deliver elements of a show to help them get their show done. So the whole concept of rental doesn't actually apply to what we do anymore, because one, the customer never takes possession of the equipment. They are not renting equipment from you. You do not let them, pick it up and take it out of the ballroom and go use it somewhere else. They don't get to take it home with them because the week's not over, right? They are not responsible, if it's misused. You are, right? So we don't do rental. Your customers never take possession of the equipment. They don't take control of it. You do. And rental gear is actually, imagine yourself that you are a skilled technician doing a service call at somebody's home. Your rental equipment that you're bringing to do a show is your toolkit. Okay. If you're a plumber, you bring your tools. You're going to fix something, right? You got to have the tools there. If we're going to do audio for people, we have to bring the tools. So the customer doesn't tell us which tools to bring. We're the experts. We bring it. Therefore, it's not a rental. You are providing a service. The service is everybody can hear. Rental does not apply in what we do. And when we do use that word, it devalues what we do, which is the whole point of my podcast today. When you use the word rental, then you start thinking in terms of rental pricing. And we also have to stop that because rental pricing has duration, right? There are day rates, there's usage, there's the whole concept of discounts. None of these words belong in our conversation with our customers for whom we are going to get their show done. We are going to provide a valuable service that goes beyond how long this equipment is going to sit in a ballroom or on a trunk. Okay. The cost of doing that business, we need to understand as the seller what the cost of doing business is, because that's how we're going to decide what we're going to charge for our services. But the client, if we tell them it's a rental rate, they say, well, great, I just want to rent it for one day, just use it for one day. Well, I can't get it set up in time. Well, that's your problem. What does it cost to get your show done? That's a different conversation, and that's the one we want to have. Another word that we devalue ourselves with in this process, and it again is from the bygone era of rental, and that is the word labor. Labor is transactional, right? We provide crew, talent, team, whatever you want to call it, but the concept of labor, just like the concept of rental equipment, is transactional. You are paying for units of time rather than a service level quality of service, right? It's our labor transactions are really managed services agreements where you're going to provide somebody who is skilled at the thing they've been assigned to do for the customer, and they have to bring the knowledge and the willingness to use it in order to be effective. How much time, if they can do it in 5 minutes, it's just as valuable if it took them 5 hours, right? As long as they're making that deliverable. So labor is another bad word. So, we have, a show team, we have crews that help, install and dismantle. By the way, to install and remove the equipment, which is your equipment, is that the cost of the equipment? Or is that the cost of the application of the equipment in this particular situation? Right. So again, what are you selling? You're selling a custom application of these tools to meet this end result, and this is what it takes to do it correctly. Right. There are a lot of ways to build a car. There are a lot of ways to build a house. Some people are going to be better at it than others. Some people are going to be more meticulous about the steps they take to ensure that everything goes well. Okay. Those are what you're doing, is making sure the customer's money is well used, is well applied. So labor is not a good reflection on what you're providing to them. You're providing an end result, which brings us into some of the other words that we get caught up in just running the day-to-day of our businesses. For instance, job cost. It winds me up every time I hear the word job cost. You need to stop using the whole concept of job cost. It doesn't apply to most of the things that you do. Okay. When we do use it, we're using it incorrectly because we're using it to compare two jobs, which are never going to have the same job cost. From a comparison standpoint, it gives you absolutely no useful information. And if you use job cost to apply a macro assessment of what is going on in your business, is also going to be inaccurate. So that's, for instance, that's just saying the person who came up to the counter and bought this Happy Meal took 3 minutes of our time instead of 2.5 minutes. Therefore, our job cost on that Happy Meal was higher and we made less money on that transaction. I'm sorry, McDonald's is not assessing their business that way. They're looking at what does it cost to service all customers. So all of your jobs together deliver gross profit over a period of time. Some are going to deliver more than others through circumstances that have nothing to do with the job. Some are going to deliver more than others because of the way that you sold it. The job itself doesn't do anything. There are no costs for the job. There are choices that we make that assign costs to areas of our business that may change from week to week, depending on how busy we are. Okay. So job cost, operations. I know when I talk about, balanced businesses, I talk about, selling and planning, administration and execution, that those are the spheres of our business. I'm not saying we don't do operations and you don't have an operations teams, but do understand where they fit in. Your operations team is a subset of planning. Very often they are not planning, they are fulfilling. Operations generally begins in our industry when there is an equipment or personnel or trucks that need to be reserved within the system, at which point it becomes an operational order where operations, who's in charge of inventory and resources, assigns resources to jobs. Warehouse operations generally fall under operations because it's about actually putting the product, labeling it, getting it ready to ship wherever it might be. So we still have operations within our companies, but it is not, we have sales, we have operations. Okay. There's a huge piece of our business that is in between the act of creating the sellable opportunity and the execution of the opportunity, and that's planning. So I'm not against us using the word operations. I still use it, but it is not a replacement for the word planning, which is what we do, which operations is a subset of. So very often we replace operations with the term with project management, or project management takes care of everything that is not operations, which is another way of saying we need to understand how our businesses actually work. And there's a part of our jobs that require planning. If you assign a project manager to do that work, they are still doing planning. Their title just happens to be project management. So operations is a subset of planning. Procurement is a subset of planning. Technical design is a subset of planning. Drawings is a subset of planning. Site surveys, there's all these things that we do in the planning process. Managing contractors, booking travel, securing team, all of those things fall under the planning. Operations is also a part of that. Another word that we're very used to is the word sales. First of all, sales is not a person. We will say salespeople, but the fact is that is not actually what we're doing. You guys don't sell. You're not writing a transaction. If you were a pure rental company, you wouldn't have a salesperson. You would have an order taker, a customer service rec, a representative, somebody who manages the rental desk, or a rental manager, because you're managing a transaction. When we have sales, we have a selling process. And the persons that are involved in the selling process are more than just account executives and account managers. There are other representatives of your company in terms of, design, maybe even marketing, conceptual things, fabrication. There's a lot of things go on there. So when we rely on the word sales to describe something, we're talking about a process that starts much later than the customer's journey to your business. So if we are trying to grow our business and we're doing outreach, we are doing marketing, we're doing business development, we are hosting events, we're doing lots of meet and greets, get to know, trying to develop relationships with potential buyers until that time where they actually have a transaction they need to make, in which case we can engage in a sales process. But all that engagement prior to that is also critically important. And as far as the customer is concerned, they're already engaged with you. They just haven't delivered an RFP or made any kind of request to you. So if we overuse the word sales, it's because we are using it to cover too broad of a thing, when in fact it's the end of a process that we need to be more focused on in developing more ideal buyers who are ready to buy what you're ready to sell. So there's lots of things like this that we need to learn to get over. I'll close with my favorite one, and that I won't deviate from, is that we do shows. Is no longer the right thing to say. We do not do shows. Your customers do shows, which is why they need you. What do you do for a living? I do shows. No, you don't. You get shows done for your customers. Okay? You are not the producer of the show. The show is not for your benefit. It is their show. It is their benefit. You do it for them. You get your customer shows done for them. Put yourself where you belong. You are in support of the person who needs to get the show done, who needs a show done for them. You are providing a service. You are not the show. That puts us into a much better position to help customers, to provide advice, and stop acting like we run everything and that we know everything. We're there to help, and helping them get their show done is the most valuable thing we do. So there you go. Choose words that add value rather than diminish your worth. Okay. Get away from transactional language. Feel it in your heart. Practice it in your words, and watch how it helps improve your relationships with the most important people in your life, which are your buyers. Thanks for listening.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.